Hi, guys. This is Amy Ansel, and I am going to talk about advancing the cannabis hemp industry in 2021 and what we need to do to advance where we've been and the elements that are keeping us from advancing. So, I definitely want to leave you with some ideas to ponder in regards to solutions and some action items as well. So, a little bit about me. I was born and raised in a faith based home and definitely was told and taught to honor not only your father and mother, but your principal, your pastor, your president. And we all know that marijuana, AKA cannabis, has been on the Schedule 1 list for a very long time. And it still is today. And that's actually what I want to talk about because the Schedule 1 of marijuana is actually holding back the hemp industry. And the hemp industry is really where it's at today in regards to transforming all these commodities and communities into a new plant-based technology, into a circular economy as well. So, growing up, I definitely saw this plant as something that was the devil's weed, the DARE program, all of the things that we were taught as children and young adults and even adults from authorities that this plant is evil. And some people still see that today. And that really is the basis for this talk is to help those that don't know what they don't know. And I'm pretty much talking to the conservative and to the faith-based households and to the churches. This talk is for you. I care about you. I love you. And I've sat in your community and I got a lot of love for you, but you need to know something that you don't know. And that's what this talk is about today because we need you. We need you to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. And the problem is misinformation, not just censorship, because it's coming out of censorship clearly with all the states coming online with their recreational laws. But at a federal level, we really need to decriminalize. And I'm going to give you some reasons why. So I hope that you just give me a chance to explain myself because I come from your village and I understand where you're coming from. So if you can just hear me out, that would be great. I've got a background in the IT industry. I spent a very long time working inside Microsoft on the Redmond campus up in Seattle, Washington. And I loved working at Microsoft. I just have so many fond memories of working with some of the greatest minds. And I worked in one of the most nerdiest divisions, which is the Windows division. And at one point, I could actually build a server, but that's not my passion. My passion is sustainability. My passion is people. And my passion is moving forward in ways that create health and healing for our communities and for our families. So, with that being said, when I was at Microsoft, I went to Amsterdam for a Microsoft show. And that's where God opened my eyes to a different country that is engaging with cannabis differently than America. I thought it was going to be like 21 Jump Street or, like some crazy place. And that everybody was just like, literally like Reefer Madness or something, right? Because it was legal. Marijuana is legal there in Amsterdam, but it was far from the case. Everybody was peaceful, loving. It was a very safe area. And then the police, they didn't even carry guns. They didn't even carry guns. All right. That blew my mind. So when I came back from Amsterdam, I really started to just absorb and soak in as much information I could about this cannabis hemp plant. I really felt like I was lied to, trying it over there. And the way that I interacted with it and how my body responded to it was really favorable. I felt like my mind was like a Cadillac on the highway. And I found clarity and peace, and I have a lot of creativity, strategy, and vision. And so that was just all enhanced. And so, again, I really felt lied to when I saw a country that has it completely legal, and the way that they just went about their daily lives. And I just, again, I felt lied to. So when I came home, I promised myself and I promised God that, and this was like in the mid 90s, that when cannabis and hemp was more legal to deal with, that I would jump in and be a contribution to its success. And so when Washington State brought forth their recreational marijuana laws in 502, I jumped in. It was a real interesting season with my vendorship at Microsoft, and they were turning into Surface. Hewlett Packard was splitting Consumer Enterprise, and it was just like the right time for me to say, you know what, I have nothing to lose anymore, and I'm going to get into this industry. I trademarked from seed to sale, and the vision I had with that was just that, building a supply chain from seed to the sale, whether that be a raw material or a finished product. We now are looking at farmers growing commodities. And I encourage you to watch my TED Talk video on hemp innovation, because I go into how this plant, the hemp plant, can transform into and be a cornerstone in the plastics industry, in biofuel, in textiles, in cement, building materials. It can replace cotton. And I go into all that. So I'm going to put the TED Talk video in the description below for you. And so, the whole seed to sale thing was just really an exciting thought, that I could map everything that I did at Microsoft from a program management perspective, from building global alliances to having, a warehouse of my own, forklifts, data center, all that I could apply and map that over this new up and coming industry. I was so excited about that. And then when the Farm Bill passed in 2018, it was even getting more exciting. So within that time frame, I started up a bioplastics company with some science formulators. I have a biofuel distribution program that's up and coming, and a whole seed to sale program that the pharmaceutical industry can rely upon. But here's the thing. Until the DEA deschedules, we have a huge thorn in our side on the hemp side of the house, because it's still a Schedule 1. And, the Farm Bill was solidified with Trump December 20th of 2018. And here it is 2021. And we're still scratching our heads. We are still scratching our heads. And we have the DEA telling that the legal hemp industry, that we are problematic for their law enforcement. Now that's a problem in itself. And I want to tell you why. We need to go back in history, and I'm going to give you some reasons why we need to decriminalize. This is very interesting. And not only that, it's very important that you know this. You need to know what you don't know. And you probably don't know this, you guys. And this just turns my stomach. 1 second. Hey, Elle, can you get the fries out of the oven? Thanks, honey. Okay. Harry Anslinger, back in 1937, is the inception of the reefer madness, the inception of demonizing this plant to such a degree and creating false claims. And these are his statements, not mine. And I'm telling you, I don't even like repeating these statements because they're so grievous. And I quote, these are attributing to Anslinger. Quote, reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men. Another quote, you smoke a joint, you're likely to kill your brother. Another quote, there are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the United States, and most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz and swing, result from marijuana use. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. Does that make your blood boil and your stomach turn? It sure does mine. This war on drugs was created and manufactured by this man right here, Anslinger. Those are false. Those are lies. That's from the pit of hell. That's racist. And it's horrible. That what he says is satanic. Jazz and swing isn't satanic. What he's saying is satanic. From a biblical point of view, in the Old Testament, there are 7 sins the Lord hates. And the one he detests most of all is a haughty look. Now, I think that racism is about being better than someone and having a haughty look. This is unacceptable. And this is literally the foundation of the war on drugs, which really is a war on race. So that reason alone, we should absolutely have the DEA decriminalize, because we know that this is not okay. This was a manufactured lie. This is a false narrative. And we need to apologize. We need to apologize to the Black community, to the Filipino community, to the Hispanics, and to the entertainers. This is horrible. And I tell you what, that same time frame, Mayor LaGuardia was against Anslinger. Okay, so there was people against what Anslinger was saying. But no matter what they did, Anslinger's agenda really won out, sadly enough. Mayor LaGuardia in 1939 commissioned the LaGuardia Committee. And this committee was the first in-depth study into the effects of smoking cannabis, marijuana in the United States. This report systematically contradicted claims made by the US Treasury Department that smoking marijuana resulted in insanity, deteriorates physical and mental health, assists in criminal behavior and juvenile delinquency, is physically addictive, and is a gateway drug to more dangerous drugs, okay? Now, this report was prepared by the New York Academy of Medicine on behalf of that LaGuardia Committee, which was appointed in 1939 by Mayor LaGuardia. Bless him. He was a strong opponent of the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act. So this report was released in 1944, and it infuriated Anslinger, infuriated him. He was campaigning against marijuana, and he condemned this report as unscientific. Anslinger went on an offensive against what he saw as a degenerative Hollywood that was promoting marijuana use. So after the high-profile arrests of actors like Robert Mitchum, Hollywood gave Anslinger full control over scripts that any film mentioned marijuana. Is that not stunning? Stunning! That's stunning. We have scientific proof, same time frame, and we have a man who is clearly racist, clearly has an agenda with race and class, and here we are today with the DEA that has marijuana on Schedule 1. What for? What for? We have a medical community that is pointing to the efficacy of this plant and the peaceful nature behind it, and it's still on Schedule 1. Now we have the DEA pointing to the hemp industry saying, you are a thorn in our side. Excuse me, DEA, but you're a thorn in our side. You're a thorn in our side because of all the families that you destroyed over this plant. keeping it from us. Our bodies were built with an endocannabinoid receptors. Okay, we have lymph nodes, we have receptors that are ready to take on this plant. Our bodies know how to metabolize it. Now, what's missing is that this plant is like a Rubik's Cube, and the cannabinoids, CBD, there's a plethora, an alphabet under the cannabinoid umbrella. And we need to discover those things and see how it helps our digestive tract and tumors and neuropathy and brain. Now, Israel's already done this. They did this in the mid 1990s. Dr. Raphael Mechoulam actually was kind of the grandpappy of CBD, and I love him for that and for his discoveries. He discovered that cannabinoids are an anti-inflammatory and a neuroprotectant. And they've been growing cannabis on the hilltops of Galilee since the 90s and putting it in their hospitals to treat traumatic acquired brain injuries and pediatric acquired brain injuries. So just think of all the science that they have and their know-how with this plant on a medical level. It's 2021 and we're still scratching our head, and that miracle plant on a medical level is on Schedule 1. And the exception is Anslinger and his racist remarks built on zero scientific reasoning. That gets me going. It gets me going, and it gets me going for more than one reason. Number one, we need to reconcile this quickly. We need to apologize to our communities that we have hurt over this plant. And for those racist remarks, we need to apologize for that. And we need to take all the people that are in prisons today, sitting there without their families nearby, being separated from their families, broken relationships. We need to reunite these people with their families and get them out of the prison system that the taxpayers are paying for. We need to decriminalize this on that alone, based on science and based on racism, on those two merits alone. But there's a third, and that is the supply chain that me and many others are trying to build in the hemp industry. This month, March 2021, the DEA is pointing the finger at the hemp industry, saying that we are screwing up their law enforcement. They are screwing up a sustainable agricultural crop that is already grown in the global marketplace. The top 10 plastics, and this was maybe a couple years ago, the top 10 plastics represent 586 billion. All right, that's just the top 10 plastics, okay? And if you look at all of the things that you can transform this commodity into, it is multi-billion, multi-trillion, all right? So when we have Mexico, I just got back from Mexico, a press conference down there, they are literally launching their hemp program. They're ready to go. Their government's behind it. Their farmers are behind it. They're creating amazing programming from seed to sale. We've got a huge farmer demographic in Mexico. The weather, you can grow it all year round. Fertile soil. Their economy is ready to grow it. They're ready to process it to spec and to work with all the manufacturers in Mexico. And if you look at what Mexico represents in manufacturing, they're in the top 20 manufacturing countries in the world. You've got all the automotive, the furniture, the electronics, the textiles, the plastics, healthcare. To think that this plant is still in shackles with the DEA on the Schedule 1 list, we are being laughed at around the world. We're being laughed at. We need to stop this. And I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to call it the DEA. Did you know? How do we do this, people? We need to shift, because this plant will shift us into a sustainable economy. This will shift us into a circular economy. Our farmers will be able to thrive. We will be able to survive this crazy, crazy climate that we're living in. And I just want to leave you with a couple things. And the first thing I want to say is that if you throw out all of the multi-billion and trillion-dollar commodities that this plant can support as a cornerstone raw material, if you throw all that out and you just look at our environment, our air pollution that our cars are burping out petroleum oil, and our soils that are depleted and toxic because of the pesticides. Oh my gosh. So if you just look at our environment, and if we threw out all these industrial commodities that we could use the hemp for and just push that to the side and just grew it for our environment, this plant sequesters carbon like nothing other. It is a sponge. So if we just planted hemp only for the environment, to clean the air and to replenish the soil, we would be winning. We would win so big in cleaning up our environment. And then if you look at all of that mass that we can use for plastics, for fiber, for automotive, for electronics, for textiles, for pulp and paper, we have less than 5% of trees left in the nation, like old growth. We really need to stop using wood. And I know that we have recycling programs and whatnot, but if you look at the pulp and paper industry and what they're pumping out in pollution, we absolutely have to shift. We absolutely have to shift. So again, just to bring it back down, if we decriminalize, then it will really set our hemp industry on fire, because that hemp industry needs the support of the DEA. I am not trying to marginalize or minimize the DEA's involvement. I'm asking the DEA to pivot your agenda, take it off Schedule 1 and get with us. We need you to be policing and ushering in effective, high quality marijuana. All right. Make sure these growers are growing it right. That's what I want you to do. I think that's what a lot of people would like you to do. We don't want you to punish. We would like you to instead support and instruct. We want you to police the efficacy of the quality and make cannabis, medical CBD, industrial hemp. We want you to make American hemp agriculture a world standard. All right. And here's another thing. I talked to a gentleman from Indiana who sat in prison for 5 years on a traffic violation. And he was telling me that there is a fake marijuana substance, fake cannabis bud, that's circulating the prison system, and it's called K2. Look it up. We need to talk about this because it's a manufactured cannabis flower that behaves like THC Delta 9, and yet it's not detectable in the blood system. So if a prisoner were to be drug tested, it wouldn't show up. And that's why it's sought after. However, it destroys your organs. It creates kidney failures and heart attacks. That's what he says. So again, if the DEA would just pivot and not punish, that would be amazing for the DEA to be behind us, because a lot of the Fortune 50 and 500 companies are nervous about jumping in the cannabis and hemp industry because of the DEA. The fact that they're pointing, saying our law enforcement can't do their job. You know what? We do need them to do their job, and we need them to get behind the cannabis hemp industry. We've got multitude of states coming online from a recreational perspective, a medical perspective, and we have a national hemp program that's not going anywhere but up. But we can't be a world leader alongside Mexico, alongside Colombia, Israel. Countries are growing this better than us. Right now, we are a mess. So if we can get our act together, and we need you, this industry, all of the industries, we need each other. And we need to come together in love and humility, learn from each other, learn from history, apologize for history, take what we can from history, because there's so much there to learn from and glean from, and say, you know what? It's time that we repurpose the DEA. Not defund them, not marginalize them, but just repurpose their agenda and take it off Schedule 1. That really is my intent behind my rant. And also that I believe that the faith-based communities, if they would have known that this cannabis hemp marijuana plant was demonized by someone who was racist and said such false and horrific things about the Black community, the Filipinos, the Hispanics, the things that Anslinger said is just grievous, and it makes me so angry. Yet let's channel what happened, and let's apologize for it, and then let's make a concession for that and use that as evidence that demands a verdict. Evidence that demands a verdict. What is that verdict? And I say decriminalize. I say DEA gets behind the hemp industry and quit pointing the finger at the hemp industry messing up their program. No, no, no. The Schedule 1 program is messing up a multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar crop industry that America needs to roll out. We need your help. If you don't know, you don't know. That's what this is for. And so I'm sorry for getting a little bit heated at times, but I'm very passionate about eradicating and, like just quitting with the myths and stigma. It's wrong. Those statements are from the pit of hell, and we need to apologize. We do. And we need to make a concession and pivot and quickly do that. So I want to see legislation happen. I want to see that swift justice happen tomorrow, if possible. I mean, that's how badly I want to see that happen. And a lot of the industries in general, the pharmaceutical, the oil industry, the plastic industry that is oil-based, your days are numbered. I'm sorry, your man-made farmies and your oil is just no longer sought after. We all want sustainable stuff for our clothes and for what we put in our bodies. And the baby boomers are talking about how much CBD is helping their aches and pains, and they're getting off a lot of prescription man-made substances because of this plant. And so, I'm just saying, let's pass the laws that make sense. Again, let's apologize for this racist agenda that the DEA is continuing to perpetuate. And here's some food for thought for you. This is call to action. Watch Grass. It's narrated by Woody Harrelson. It is an excellent documentary. Watch Hemp for Victory. That was given by the USDA to inspire and encourage farmers to grow hemp during the war time in our 40s and 50s. So it's like, it reminds me of like a Walt Disney PSA. So Google on YouTube, Hemp for Victory, watch Grass with Woody Harrelson. And the third one is called 13th. Now this talks about our prison system from, the yesteryear and where it's at today. And yes, I did cry my way through that. And I believe that we could easily connect the dots with the war on drugs and the prison system. And I'm not going to go into that on this video, but I will be making a video on the documentary 13th. There's a lot of things that we need to talk about and apologize for. So Another thing is to share this video with people that just don't know what they don't know. Um, there's a lot of good things coming around the corner when it comes to the hemp industry, and there's a lot of states coming online with recreational laws. And we really need this one thing, Schedule 1, to be decriminalizing marijuana, to be decriminalizing cannabis hemp is really important. Okay. Not hemp, but cannabis. The Schedule 1 substance is marijuana or cannabis, however you want to call it that. I think marijuana is slang. And so if we decriminalized it, the hemp program would, I believe, would pick up momentum and steam and allow farmers to feel more comfortable growing it, allow the Fortune 50 and 500 to start really looking at how they can transform their products and their materials with hemp as a raw ingredient, the raw material, whether that be for the fiber, the hurd, the oil. And then lastly, the TED Talk that I did on hemp innovation, I actually go into bioplastics. I go into the cotton industry. I go into cement and textiles. And that's a really, I had fun creating that. It took a while to craft that speech. And I had some amazing help with my TED coaches. So I'll put all that in the description. Thank you so much for your time. Please share this with your churches, share this with your Bible study. Again, I'm a woman of faith. I believe that this is God's plant, and so many people are behind this that are people who love the Lord, who have a faith, whatever faith they have. This isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. This isn't one or the other. This is all of us coming together to look at the history and look at the inception of what we were given as a false narrative. Again, lies built on racism, and we need to come together and we have evidence that demands a verdict. So decriminalize marijuana and share this idea that we can create a new possibility by coming together and reasoning together. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And be well. Lots of love. Take care.